Okay. You graduated from both the University of Nevada and UNLV. What color should the cannon be?
The cannon should always be blue, just as it is right now.
Okay. All right. All right. Today's guest speaker was born and raised in Hawthorne, Nevada. She began her educational journey at the University of Nevada, Reno, where she earned her Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice with a minor in counseling and educational psychology. She then went on to earn her Juris Doctorate from the William S. Boyd School of Law at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Shout out to Boyd. She has dedicated her legal career to public service, and in 2017, she was appointed to serve on the district court in the state of Nevada, becoming the first African-American woman to serve on the state's district court. It is my honor to introduce to you all Nevada District Court Judge Tierra Jones. Judge Jones, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Well, we're really glad to have you. We had a great conversation last week with Attorney General Ford. We're excited to have a great conversation this week. Now, we're going to dive right into the childhood. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. Oh, and we just got a shout out. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get off topic. We got a shout out from Mineral County saying that you make Mineral County proud. And I think that is absolutely right. Tell us a little bit about your childhood. Where'd you grow up? Tell us about Hawthorne growing up. What was your favorite subject in grade school?
I grew up in Hawthorne, Nevada. I was actually born in Reno, but I lived my entire life in Hawthorne. It was amazing, small town living. It's a great place to grow up. Everybody knows your name, you know all your neighbors. It's safe to go out, it's safe to do everything. It was a lot of fun. I mean, people say now, like, oh man, it's so small. How did you live there? But it was a great experience. It's a great experience that I think was just genuinely part of how I was raised, with just that small town mentality. And I loved it. I don't have any complaints. And I grew up in Hawthorne, worked my first job at McDonald's right there on the Highway 95, where you guys all go on your way to the legislature. I know you
I know
passed.
that McDonald's.
Yeah, that McDonald's. I worked there from the time I was 16 until I graduated high school.
Oh, fantastic.
And my favorite subject, believe it or not, was math. I was a really good math student. I went all the way to calculus in high school and I really enjoyed it. And now daily I have to make the joke that I'm a lawyer, so I can't do math.
It's legitimately true. I'm a lawyer and the treasurer, which puts us in kind of a weird place. Tell me, favorite part of working at McDonald's?
It was the camaraderie of the people that you worked with. I mean, it was a lot of high school students, but there was a lot of other people. I mean, I made some really good friends. I think I was saying today, counting those nugget sauces at the end of the month for the inventory definitely builds character.
That's absolutely right. And now they've added all sorts of sauces that were not around when we were kids.
There was only about 4 when I was there.
Yeah, there's plenty more now. It's very uncomfortable. And I always tell everybody that working at a place like that is a great way to build character. It's a great way to get a work ethic in. These are important jobs. So I appreciate you sharing that and showing how that journey comes. So you were big in math, you were big in calculus, and then you went to college. Now you going from Hawthorne back up to Reno. Tell us about that transition.
It was a great transition because it was my first opportunity to be away from home. I had never spent any significant time away from home. So when I went off to college and moved into the dorms, I lived in the dorms for 2 years. My first 2 years at UNR, I moved into the dorms, and it was just a great experience because I loved it that you were just close enough. You could go home if you were homesick, but you also were far enough away you didn't have to go home. So I bleed silver and blue. My pride with Nevada is still there today. I love nothing more than going to campus and going to Silver and Blue Outfitters and getting new clothes. Like, it's my favorite thing. I still bleed silver and blue. My loyalty has not wavered. I love it. And I went to college at UNR. It was amazing. I was a business student in the beginning until I had economics 101 at 8 o'clock in the morning and subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. And that quickly changed. And then I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I mean, I've met some lifelong friends. I actually have 2 very close girlfriends of mine from here that I met at UNR, one of them being one of your employees. Zach, Tia Mathis Coleman was a friend of mine. Tia and I have been friends for 20 years, and I met her while I was at the University of Nevada, Reno. And we are still friends today, and she's here in Vegas. So I made some great lifelong friends there. I got a great education there. I still keep in touch with people. I worked on campus. It was just a tremendous opportunity for me that I think was just an experience like no other.
So when you were looking at colleges, was UNR your only choice? Were you looking at other places? How did you decide to stay in state?
I got several interest letters from other places, but I really knew that I wanted to stay close to home and that I wanted to just go to Reno. So I knew that then, and I certainly don't regret that decision now.
Fair enough. You made some great friends. Never attended a class at UNR, but everybody says nice things, and certainly current President Sandoval has been pitching real hard. So we appreciate that.
And I'm a huge fan of his.
Yes, indeed, as are we all. Now, were you involved in any colleges, any clubs, or organizations while you were at UNR that have brought together camaraderie or additional benefit for you going forward?
Well, it was so interesting because one of the places where Tia and I met was in student orientation staff. We did student orientation staff where you welcome all the new students to the university. Every August, you do the 2-day orientation with them. So I thought that was great. I thought that was really great as far as getting me acclimated to like public speaking and taking on a leadership role and like guiding people through a difficult process such as like starting college, which is kind of a lot of what I do now. So I think that was definitely very beneficial. But I was also a member of the Criminal Justice Honor Society, and I think that had benefits because I got to meet actually a couple of people who are actually lawyers here in Las Vegas that I met during that time. So I thought it was very, it was very, definitely prepared me for what I'm doing now and what I was going to experience when I went to law school.
So now before we move on to law school, let's back it up a little bit. Tell me about growing up in Hawthorne and the plans for college. Was it clear that you were going to go to college? Was college an option? Tell us a little bit about that, kind of what role your parents played.
Well, for me, it was like I always knew I wanted to go to college. And I always knew that that was definitely going to be the path for me. So even when I was in high school, I was trying to take honors classes and doing everything to make sure that I was on that path. Because for me, I didn't see another option for me. And I definitely acknowledge that it's not the option for everyone, but it definitely was not, that was the only option that I was looking for. Even before I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, I knew I wanted to go to college.
Now, of course, your friend Tia Mathis Coleman, who happens to be our deputy of our college savings division, has warned me that I need to mention at least 4 or 5 times that the college savings division, especially navigate.gov, nvigate.gov, can help people plan for, save for, and pay for college. Tell us a little bit about how'd you pay for college? I mean, did you take out loans? Did you get scholarships? Take us through the journey.
My first year at the University of Nevada, Reno, I had some scholarships and then my mother paid for the rest of it. My second year at the University of Nevada, Reno, I had some scholarships and then I had saved up some money and I paid for that second year. The third year, I was able to combine scholarships with grants to be able to finish. And then that last year, I only had scholarships and I had to end up taking out a loan for the last remainder of that. And then I did go to law school on student loans.
Okay, so now you've gone to UNR, you bleed silver and blue, and you think to yourself, maybe I should also be a rebel and go to William S. Boyd School. Nope, that didn't happen. So tell me about how you ended up down here in Las Vegas at the William S. Boyd School of Law. Also my alma mater.
Well, it was very interesting because I did apply to a few law schools and I got into Boyd first. And it was very interesting because at the time it was the whole thing. Boyd had, UNLV had the law school, UNR had the med school. So you had to choose which one you wanted to go to. So it was very interesting because that's the law school I got into. So I decided I was going to go there. But when I first moved to Vegas, I said, this is not where I belong. I'm going to do 3 years here and then I'm going back to Reno because I felt like Reno was where I belonged at the time. And while I've been here, I've fallen in love with Vegas and I would never leave, but I fell in love with Las Vegas. I did not fall in love with UNLV. And whenever I'm at the law school, I always have to remind Dean Hamilton that I bleed silver and blue. So I went to Boyd, and my loyalty is when I'm at the game, I'm in a full silver and blue get up. I have never worn
Wolf
rebel
head
red.
and
That's
everything.
not what I do.
Right. Okay. No, that's good. Sometimes Dean Hamilton certainly does need to be reminded that there were other schools in people's life beyond Boyd, but that's okay, right? You gotta root for the home team. Did you know that you wanted to pursue a career in law? I know some people like myself go to law school, have no intention of ever practicing as attorneys. Did you know that you wanted to be as involved in the law as you are now?
Once I applied to law school and once I got in, I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, and I knew I wanted to be a criminal lawyer at the time. I definitely knew that was something, but I always had the goal of I want to be a judge. I always had that goal of I'm using, I want to get my skills as a lawyer, and I want to be able to have that experience so that ultimately I can sit on the bench one day. That was always what I wanted to do. But yes, when I was in law school, I knew I wanted to practice, and I knew I wanted to be a trial lawyer. I knew I wanted to go to court every day. I knew I wanted to be in the hustle and bustle of being a trial lawyer.
So now, I think that was an interesting little mention there. So you've always wanted to be a judge. Now, normally, when we've got folks who are in a public office, they hem, they haw, I never really wanted to be a judge, but then I was asked, and it made sense, and I guess I have to do it now. But you went straight at it. You wanted to be a judge. You are a judge. Tell me about what is it about being a judge that made it so interesting for you?
It's always been very interesting the amount of power that judges have to like effectuate change. And that's what I've always been interested in, because I always tell people that when I first got out of law school, I clerked for a judge, but then right after that, I became a public defender. And I became a public defender because I wanted to help people. That was where my mindset was, is I really want to help people, and this is the way that I can do that. And then someone actually said to me, if you really want to help people, you should be a prosecutor. Because if you're a prosecutor, you actually have the power to help people, because you're the person who's making a lot of decisions as to whether or not these people are going to be able to receive help. And so I did go on to be a prosecutor, but I always knew that ultimately, each side can ask for whatever they want, but it's ultimately the judge's call as to how these things work. And I just knew that you had that tremendous amount of power to like really make a difference and really just go home at night feeling like that's what you've done, feeling like you have affected somebody's life. And, I'm making life-changing decisions for people every single day. So it's very, very important to take that into account and just to be doing it for the purpose of you want to be a part of the community that is helping out and to be able to do that. And I think as a judge, there's just so much room for you to do that. And there's so many different ways that you can help and so many different things. Like, we referred to Dean Hamilton briefly. Like I spent a lot of time at Boyd. There was a time Dean Hamilton and I had a long discussion about me getting a parking spot because I was there every day. And I was like, Dean Hamilton, can I get a parking spot? Because, those are hard to come by at Boyd.
Yeah, I was going to say at UNLV, a parking spot is like a statue.
Exactly. So I was like, Dean Hamilton, I'm going to need a parking spot because I love to go back. I'd love to be involved in shaping the next generation of lawyers and who that they're going to be, and helping them to get on that path, to get out there in the community and get their networking out there so they can do externships and do internships and see what type of lawyer do I want to be? Where do I want this to go? And who is it that's already there who could answer my questions, who could help me to get there? So I just think like, okay, that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is assisting these attorneys as they look for options for their clients and what they can do in civil and in criminal. I mean, there's just so many things you can do as a judge that I think can effectuate change, that was what majorly made me want to do that. I want to be a part of that.
I appreciate that. Now, I want to dig in a little bit more on that. But before we do, just for our audience, a district court judge, there's a lot of different types of judges. Tell us about what a district court judge does. What kind of cases come in front of you, and so a little bit more information there, just to kind of frame the rest of the conversation.
Okay. Our 8th Judicial District Court, we handle gross misdemeanors and felonies. And gross misdemeanors are in between felonies and misdemeanors for a lot of people that don't know. And then we handle civil cases where the amount of money in dispute is more than $15,000. So anything more than that, we handle in the district court. So we have a huge amount of cases, and it's a lot. We have right now we have, and we also handle family court. Our family division now consists of 26 judges after this last election, and we have 32 judges who handle our civil and criminal. We also handle all of the specialty courts, including drug court. We do competency. We do mental health court. We do DUI court. So we handle all of our specialty courts. And we've broken it down into a lot of different divisions. And I now run the criminal division. I'm the presiding criminal judge of the court now, and I also preside over the homicide program because we have a homicide program. In 2017, we put all of our homicide cases together and divided them up amongst 4 judges, and we only have 4 judges who handle the homicide caseload, and with the hopes of getting these cases to a resolution just a little more quicker and being able to manage them and know what's going on. So we also have that going. So we have a ton of things that we're involved in that keep us going every day. But it is the more expensive the civil cases that have more money in dispute, and the felony level cases that we're handling. The rest of it is handled at the justice court.
And I think most people don't understand just how many cases can be on your desk at any given time. Could you take us through kind of the volume? I think a lot of people, I know I as a child thought the judge just basically sat up there, crossed their arms, occasionally was like, you win, you lose, you jail, right? But that's not what actually happens. Tell us a little bit about the massive amount of work on your desk, and tell us what your day looks like. Like, what's it like to be a judge? I mean, you get to wake up, you do some stuff, then you come, you talk to a guy like me, carry on. But what happens in between? What happens?
Typical Thursday. I mean, it's actually very interesting, and I always encourage people, because we have public courtrooms, to just come down and see it, because I do think it is something that a lot of people don't know until they see it. Because, for instance, for myself, now that I have a homicide case, so I have criminal and homicide. So on Mondays, I do my criminal calendar, and my criminal calendar it ranges anywhere between 15 to 20 matters to up to 45 to 50, just depending on what day it is. And I do that twice. Sure
that's 15, sorry to cut you off, that's 15 cases up to 25, 40 cases. I mean, these are individual situations with fact patterns and defendants and prosecutors, and I mean, just individual little universes.
Yeah, and there's like people being sentenced, there's people on probation revocations, we have motions that are being heard, we have people that are on status checks for drug treatment. I mean, we have people that are entering pleas. There's a laundry list of things that happen. And I have a criminal calendar Mondays and Wednesdays. And then on Fridays, I have my homicide calendar. So I have all my homicide cases. And right now, the pandemic put a damper on us doing trials, but as of February 1st, we are now doing jury trials, but we have had to make a COVID safe courtroom. We've actually made 2, but because of that, we only can do 2 jury trials at a time. So we are doing the jury trials, but we're doing them 2 at a time. So a lot of our homicide cases are not being tried because we are prioritizing people who are in custody who have invoked their right to a speedy trial. So we're prioritizing them. So a lot of the homicide cases are just kind of waiting until things are safer for us to proceed. But on my homicide calendar tomorrow, because I run the program, all the homicide cases come to me first. So every homicide case in Clark County comes to me first. And then I keep some of them and I assign some of them out, but we split the work equally amongst the 4 of us. So anybody who has a new case, I think there's like 5 or 6 of them on tomorrow. You come in front of me and I decide where those cases are going to go. And then I also do status checks on my own homicide cases that are assigned to me and make sure that they are exchanging discovery, make sure that they're having discussions about the case, and that when the trial date does come forward, that we are ready for the trial date. So I do that every Friday. And then this week, because I run criminal too, I've been helping out. This week, I've done somebody else's calendars on Tuesdays and Thursdays. For instance, just today alone, I did a calendar for another judge who was in trial, and it finished at 1:30. I had an evidentiary hearing at 2. I had this interview with you. I have an evidentiary hearing tomorrow because we have to do a lot of evidentiary hearings when there's things that need to be sorted out. So that could be on any given day. I mean, we have a lot going on. We now are doing our trial readiness status checks on Wednesdays. So I do my 8:30 calendar, I have an 11:30, and I have a 2 on Wednesday. So it's a lot going on. We're super busy at RJC.
It sounds like it.
It's really busy, and we're doing everything we can, with the precautions. We haven't been able to do a lot of trials. So we have a settlement conference program that's actively being run for our criminal cases as well as for our civil cases. We actually have space at the convention center to do some civil trials. So hopefully we can get some civil trials going at the Las Vegas Convention Center. So we're working.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. I've got so many follow-up questions from that, but let me start with the one that's sort of most interesting to me, but probably the least important. How do you pick which trials you're going to keep and which ones you're going to pass off to another judge? You're looking for like, oh, that's an interesting fact pattern, or maybe I can make some law here. I mean, what is the thing that you're looking for?
There's a lot of factors that go into it. I mean, because all the cases are different. So there's just a lot of things to take into consideration, but it's basically a lot of it is balancing out the work and keeping the work level even, because there are four of us and they're four very good judges, but we want to make sure no one has a lot more than anyone else, but we also need to get these cases tried if we can, and, make sure we're keeping an eye on them. So it's a lot of balancing the workload that goes into that.
Okay. So I have a series of follow-up questions, and we're gonna go through them, and it's gonna feel a little haphazard, but you just gave us so much good information that I want to make sure we capture all of it in real time. You mentioned a bit ago that one of the reasons you wanted to be a judge was because that you felt like that gave you the biggest opportunity to impact. I don't want to paraphrase you, but basically to impact people's lives, right? That was a lever point, a position of power where, if done well, it could help people. You also just described a calendar that anyone would refer to as genuinely overwhelming. How do you find those moments of truth to help people? What are you looking for? How do you do it? And how do you make sure that you have this position, you have these opportunities, but there's so many of them, right? So how do you find that importance right in the middle of that day?
It's a very interesting balance, that I think that's why I think it's great that you have to have a certain amount of experience as a lawyer before you can be a judge, because I think a lot of it also rests with them. A lot of it is, because you're relying on a lot of information that was given to you by the lawyers, and you're making the best decisions that you can at that time based on the information you have, because we don't like do individual research on these people or anything. We're relying on the information that's relayed to us by the lawyer. So it's all about processing the information that they are bringing to you and making the best decision that you think you can make. So there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things you're juggling during a calendar, but I think it's just super, super important to take every case as an individual case and do what you think is best. And I always create the goal is, can I live with this decision?
Mm, that's it. And I bet sometimes that's hard, right?
Yes.
Competing factors and everything else. Okay, so there are going to be some first year law students who watch this, especially once Dan Hamilton finds out that he's been mentioned in it. I'm sure the dean will put it on the syllabus relatively quickly.
Yes.
What advice would you give to a first year law student who's thinking to themselves, being a judge sounds kind of fun?
I would tell them that that's absolutely correct. And I would tell them, in that first year of law school, don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Because as you know, that first year of law school is awful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh, it wasn't that bad. No, it was awful. It was awful. And so the advice I always give to young lawyers is just don't get discouraged. I mean, you got to see this through. And I'm not going to say it gets a lot easier, but you get a lot more comfortable with it, I think, by the time you get to the second or third year. So it's a lot, you can add in more of like different things that you can do and be able to add in an externship and things like that, because that first year is very, very difficult. So I would just absolutely tell them. And I would also say that I think we have a great bench right now. It's a great group of people who I think no one would have a problem if you like reached out to them. Like I said, I always encourage, and I know some of my colleagues do as well, just come down to the courthouse. I actually had someone from the Justice Douglas Fellowship
Mhm.
come and sit through two of my calendars last week. And then afterwards, I sat with her and answered all of her questions, because I think that that's important, so that you do get a little taste of, is this what I want to see every day? Like, is this what I want to do? So I think that that's important. And I would say, don't hesitate to reach out to people. I know we have some judges, even though they didn't go to Boyd, they're just great people and they're always willing to help out. And so I know that even though they didn't go to Boyd, they would still like allow the Boyd
Oh,
students
sure.
to come in, when things are safer. And, so I just think it's a great opportunity. And are a lot less disjointed. I mean, not gonna say disjointed, but a lot less. We're more like accessible, I think, than a lot of judges. People are actually kind of shocked that like you would see like the judges coming out to the law school and like, speaking at the law school on different things because a lot of times like a lot of people have never seen a judge in real life. Like it's weird.
Yeah, for sure. Same thing happens. No one's ever actually met a treasurer.
No,
So you get the same sort of,
I know. So
uh,
when you go up, they're like, really? He's
they're
here.
like, tell me about this treasurer now. Okay, let's talk mentoring. So growing up, did you have any mentors all the way through your career that you could tell us about? And then what about now? I'm hopeful that you're out there mentoring young men and women, lawyers and otherwise. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I had a lot of people that I came into contact with over the years who had just offered me like a lot of good life advice. And one of the people that certainly comes to mind is when I was at UNR, I worked on campus, and the lady that I worked for, I mean, she was just so great to me at like, just give me life advice. Cause I'm freshly 18, 19. I know everything according to me, but in reality, I don't know anything. So like she was just, and it's just so amazing because even now she has now relocated to Arizona. So whenever she's in Vegas, we get together. She comes to Vegas and we get together and have dinner. And we just talk about like me at 18 or me at 19 and like just all the different life lessons that, she taught me that I took away. So she's definitely someone who certainly comes to mind. And like as a professional, I think I had a lot of people as a lawyer, but I do always think back to the first judge that I clerked for. I mean, he was just one of those people, he's going to tell you exactly how it is. And
Mhm,
I always tell this story because I think this story is amazing because he's totally my mentor. But when I applied for the appointment, I
mhm.
called him up and I said, "Hey, I applied for an appointment. Will you help me?" And he says, "Oh, I'll help you, but you're not getting appointed, Tierra." He said, "You're too young. And I'm not here just to tell you what you want to hear. You're too young and you're not getting appointed." So when I had my one on one interview with Governor Sandoval, he says at the end, "Is there anything you want to ask me?" I said, "Yeah, there is, Governor. I know somebody who's very important in my life who told me you weren't going to appoint me because I'm too young. How do you feel about that?" Because I needed Governor Sandoval to answer that question for me. Because when my mentor said it, like I was devastated because in my mind, if he said it, it's true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was so amazing because Governor Sandoval reminded me that he was a fan of people doing things at a young age. So he told me, if I don't appoint you, it has nothing to do with your age, because I was 35 at the time. And so he said that to me. And then after I got appointed, my mentor called me up and said, "I've never been so happy to be wrong." So he was super excited about it. And it was just so great because like to me, and I think that actually made me like, work harder in my interview with Governor Sandoval to explain to him why I was the best choice and explain to the committee. So it definitely was motivating, but he's been a great just mentor to me the whole time. And so because of that, like I love giving back. Like I want to do that. Like I was saying, I have one of my, when I was a brand new lawyer, I started mentoring a law student and she just got elected to the board of governors for the state bar. She's amazing. But like we've been, friends for years because I mentored her. I tried to always do mentoring stuff from the law school. Like I said, I'm on the board of the Justice Douglas Fellowship. So I had one of the students who I met this year in the fellowship. She came last week and sat with me through my calendar. I have an extern. I always like do one-on-one stuff with my law clerks. It's just I actually got to see all four of them a couple of weeks ago. It was awesome to see like the great things that they're doing. So I do love it. I mean, I love giving back to like the young attorneys and being that person that they can just ask the questions of that like I wish I could have asked at that stage in my career. Like, should I do this externship? Should I not? Who should I talk to if I want to do this? Who should I talk to if I want to do this? So I think that that's very, very important. So I always try to, go back and do some mentoring at the law school and definitely be present for that.
After you got that appointment and became the first African American woman to serve on a district court here in Nevada, all of a sudden you become an icon to plenty of people you've never met, right? Who are looking to you to set an example and are looking to you to try and understand, what their lives could hold. What is that? How does that feel? What is that? What did you do with that information when it happened? It feels overwhelming.
It was very overwhelming. And in the beginning, it felt like it wasn't real. And I always tell people, because I remember the day that it became real. I was at an event with the only African American female from the Las Vegas Justice Court, Karen Bennett Herron. She had invited me to an event and we were there together. And this young high school student, she came up to me and Judge Bennett and she told us, she was about 14 at the time, that she just wanted to take a picture with us because seeing the two of us, she knew that that could one day be her. And that moment like changed it for me and made it real as to what this meant and how important it was for me to be that person to show like young girls that look like me that you too can be exactly who I am. And that was just the day that I realized that it was real, that I realized it was a real thing. And so ever since then, like I've definitely taken that responsibility very seriously because I think that is a huge responsibility. And I think, and it's been great. Like I do love like that amazement that you see. Like I'll never forget, a couple of years ago, I was in the Martin Luther King parade and I'm driving down the street on the back of a car and somebody was like, "We have a Black judge?" So, I'm doing my parade wave and everything. And it's that look on people's face when they realize like it's a real thing. And so I do think it's a huge responsibility and I definitely take it seriously. And I love to be that person to show young girls who look like me that this is also possible for you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And the parade wave is a relatively difficult thing to learn, right? Elbow. Do you do the elbow too, or just?
I do.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We're going to do a demonstration about that for everybody right after the Millennium Scholarship briefing. So if you just want to stick around, Judge Jones and I parade waves. What's your favorite part about being a judge?
Um, there's so much. Like it is definitely my dream come true. So I mean, I love so much about it. I always knew that I wanted to be a judge, and then once I became a judge, it was everything I thought it would be, and then some. But I have to say, I mean, I have a great staff. I mean, they are just nothing short of amazing. So they make me, look so much better. it's and it's so interesting. I love that every single day is a different adventure because you just never know what each day holds, and every day is definitely different. It's definitely different, but I think it's very rewarding, and it is definitely everything that I thought it would be, and then some.
That's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So before you became a judge, and now obviously you're a little bit geographically located, but before you became a judge, you were an established attorney. You could have gone anywhere in the country. Why are you still in Nevada?
Because I'm a Nevada girl. I'm a native and I love everything about Nevada. Like I said, I can sing the words "The home means Nevada." I get a little caught up on the second verse, just like you do, but I mean, I know the words and I'm just a Nevada girl. Like this is where I was born. I love it. I love everything about it. And I just couldn't see, like, I love visiting other places. I do. Like, I love being on the beach in San Diego. I love all that stuff, but it's just not where I want to live. I want to give back to the state that made me who I am.
Got it. I like it. Okay, now we're going to move on into our lightning round. These are fast questions. We will not ask you to put a yes or no on them. I've always found that annoying when folks do it in a in a courtroom. So we're going to expound as much as you want, but don't feel free to not expound too if you want to. Okay, so your first job was at a McDonald's. We've talked about the camaraderie of a McDonald's. Let's talk about something else. Do you remember how many shapes of McNuggets there are?
No.
Okay, all right.
No, because I like to believe that they're all the same shape.
Yes, that's uniformity. I like it. Okay, nowadays, what's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite type of food, and do you cook?
My favorite restaurant is in Vegas.
I'll take Vegas, and then Nevada, and then the world.
Okay. In Vegas, my favorite restaurant is probably Echo and Rig.
Yeah, yeah.
Love Echo and Rig at Tivoli. In Nevada, it's gonna have to be the Sushi Pier in the Costco Shopping Center in Reno. Yes.
Wow.
Have you ever eaten there?
No.
You've never had sushi. And it's the original location. It's in the Costco Shopping Center on Plum. I don't go to Reno without going to the Sushi Pier.
I mean, my next trip up north, I
You
know
have to. I send
where
everyone there.
I'm
I
going
send
fishing. Okay.
everyone there. It's amazing. And I cook. I mean, I make a Costco run every Saturday
Okay.
and I cook, I meal prep. I mean, Sundays is the cooking day.
Okay. Favorite thing to cook?
I can do anything. Like I really got into it during the pandemic.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I really like enjoy like, just making new things.
yeah, yeah. I think that's right. We've been making a lot of strange foods here. We
Yeah.
got an air fryer, and it's just been very odd recently.
Everybody said I would love mine. I gotta say, people are gonna hate me, but I don't love it. I've only used it once since Thanksgiving.
Is that right? So our version of that was the Instant Pot, where
Yeah,
everyone was like, "You're going to use the Instant Pot every day." I think we used it twice.
yeah.
Nothing. All right, we'll
No,
see.
I'm not. And I know everybody hates it because they love them some air fryers, but
Look,
not me.
it's okay to be a traditionalist, right? All you need is like a little bit of heat, a little bit of fat, and you're good, right? And some salt. Okay. What's the one thing that no one knows about Hawthorne, Nevada? Note, you can't mention that it now has the most famous McDonald's in the state. We're going to get a plaque there. I'm calling museums as soon as we have phone. And you can't mention the giant flag. Those are the two things you can't mention. Anything
People
else?
wouldn't know. Oh man. Well, what wouldn't people know about Hawthorne? Well,
There.
they don't know that that H on the top of the mountain is one of the best party spots for the high schoolers when I was in high school.
So this is the thing for those of you who have not explored the rest of the state. Besides, we have someone in the audience saying it's the home of the world's largest army ammunition depot, which sounds like a blast.
That's,
The
I mean, that's true. I'm sorry, I didn't mean cute. I mean, that's true. That is
I think the H is a much better story. But in all places in Nevada except for southern Nevada, in the surrounding mountains around a town, Carson City, Hawthorne, Fallon, etc.,
true.
the first initial of the town is on the mountain. And it's really disconcerting when you see it the first time. And then it grows to be sort of like warm and fuzzy. In Carson, they actually have a flag under their C. It's a whole thing. Okay. You graduated from both the University of Nevada and UNLV. What color should the cannon be?
The cannon should always be blue, just as it is right now.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay.
It belongs in Legacy Hall on campus at the University of Nevada, Reno.
All right. There it is. I do appreciate, just because we do try to be a bi-statal press situation here on our Zooms. You didn't just call it University of Nevada. I know some people do that and then they just stop without putting the Reno on. So thank you, because I think
It is Nevada, though, Zach.
Yeah, see, there it is. There it is.
Nevada.
Give young girls everywhere, or boys, a piece of advice you wish someone had given you when you were growing up. I have a 7-year-old girl. I've got 2 3-year-old boys. What advice should I give them?
Whatever your dreams are, you can accomplish that. And don't ever let anyone tell you different. If you put in the work, it's going to work for you.
I like it. Okay. Now, as some people might know, current university president Sandoval did a stint for a couple of years as governor of the great state of Nevada. Before that, he was a district court judge. So the question for you, Judge Jones, is what are your 3 top priorities when you're governor?
That's amazing. It's like I haven't thought that far in advance.
I'll just take one. We'll just take one priority. It's fine. I mean, you got time to roll out the whole policy.
Just got time to release my whole. I just haven't thought that far in advance, but
All right, there it is. Okay, last question, little more serious. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about this state, this country, your community, what would be the one thing you change and why?
Right now?
Right now.
I think the one thing I would change is the divisiveness that exists among everybody. I think that we can get so much more accomplished if people are all working together and if people are working together for that common goal.
Hear, hear. Well said. All right. I'd like to thank all of the participants in the audience. I saw Regent Perkins, our friend Regent Perkins, and a few others in the audience shouting questions at Judge Jones. That's exactly how we like these things. So thanks for doing that. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I just want to thank you so much, District Court Judge Tierra Jones. Thank you so much for being here. We had a blast. And thanks to everybody who tuned in. Any final words, Judge Jones?
I just want to thank you so much for having me. I think Black History Month is a great time to highlight so many amazing individuals, and you have so many options of people you could highlight. So I want to thank you so much for taking this opportunity to highlight me. I really appreciate it. It has been so much fun. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. So now we've got to pay some bills. Just want to let everybody know before logging off, I want to remind everyone that we recently launched Navigate. That's NVIGATE.gov, a new program and online platform that provides students and parents access to essential information, programs, and services to help make informed decisions about planning for, saving for, and paying for higher education. You can learn more at navigate.gov. That's NVIGATE.gov. And just for today, we'll only push University of Nevada, Reno things, but tomorrow it's back to everything else. I hope you can continue to join us every week of February for our My Story series in celebration of Black History Month. Next week's event will be on Thursday, February 18th at 3 p.m. We'll be featuring yet another great woman and the first African-American to serve on the Washoe County School District's Board of Trustees, Dr. Angie Taylor. You do not want to miss it. Don't forget to follow us on social media to learn more and to receive updates of all the information and virtual events that my office holds each month that highlight the importance of saving for higher education. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and continue staying safe. Again, I am Zach Conine, your Nevada State Treasurer. Have a great day, everybody.